Hey, Shalom. You are praise and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahshua. And double honor to the elders and apostles, the great millstone GMS, who do rule and teach well. It's the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 11, verse 1. Then I saw a dream, behold, there came up from the sea an eagle. And she had 12 feathered wings and 3 heads. The 12 feathered, the eagle, start with the eagle. The eagle is Rome. And the 12 feathered wings represents the 12 Roman emperors from Caesar to Domitian. The Caesar's the family name, Julius Caesar. And it starts with Julius Caesar himself, right? And we know about all that with Rome's kind of civil war and in time, triumvirate, piece by piece, being pushed aside so Julius Caesar could have sole power over Rome. And then, Caesar continuing for a time before he got betrayed, which led up to some more infighting and things like that, and then eventually Octavian taking power and things like that. So this is the book of 2nd Esdras 11 and 1. And so I had a dream, well, there came up from the sea an eagle which had 12 other wings and 3 heads, and all the things I explained, the whole book, not the whole book, the whole chapter will speak on it, which had 12 other wings, right? And has Julius Caesar, and then Octavian or Augustus Caesar, which I believe Augustus means like honorable or glorious Caesar. These where you get the Pax Romana, especially in the time of relative peace. Tiberius, right? And then you have Caligula. And then you have, after him, you have Claudius. And then after Claudius, you have Nero. And after Nero, you have the year of the 4, which is Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian. And Vespasian continued for about 10 years, I believe, and then Titus continued, I think, about like a year or so, and some change roundabout. And then you get, Domitian, and then in time of Titus, I believe you get the 70 A.D. And he didn't finish taking over Jerusalem, but Domitian finished it over. It's history that I'm still looking into it. 70 AD, you had Edomites that were fighting alongside the Zealots, fighting alongside Jake, trying to fight back, the Roman conquest. Because the Edomites, they had rule over us, man. The Herodian dynasty. Remember, going back to that first Herod, his father was Antipater the Dumian, who I believe he made some deals with one of the 3 heads that we're going to go talk about now. So the 3 heads is the first triumvirate, as we all know, which is Julius Caesar, Marcus Licinius Crassus, I think it's Pompey Magnus, and all 3 were military men that were involved in the military, but Pompey and Crassus, I believe, were more involved in more financial and political aspects. Julius Caesar was more of a military man. He was more, beloved by the people. He was definitely beloved by his soldiers and his men. Things like that. Remember, Julius Caesar, he came from the bottom. Before his time, there was a civil war in his house. His family line was pretty much, I believe his family line was pretty much exterminated. It was just him, but he came from a very low estate. He came up from the ground up with all the soldiers and rose up through the ranks. So that was pretty much that, right? There's a book of 2nd Esdras 11 and 4, but heads were at rest. The head in the midst was greater than the other, yet rested with the residue. And so the head in the midst was greater than the other, Julius Caesar, because he grew to be, more powerful. The other 2 of the triumvirate eventually got killed off, but Julius Caesar was the one who remained, and then he ruled in Rome for a time. Very, very heavy-handed tactics he used. In the Senate, they feared him, which is why they eventually killed him. And he'd been betrayed by Brutus, one of his closest people, closest to him. So Edomite on Edomite crime. Alright, so this is .co.com. To the common people in declining years of the Roman Republic, the members of the first triumvirate must have seemed part king, part god, triumphant conquerors and wealthy beyond their dreams. However, the triumvirate disintegrated due to battle and ambush. So Marcus Crassus. Right, so Crassus died in one of Rome's embarrassing military defeats, the worst it suffered until 89 when Germans ambushed the Roman legions led by Verus. Verus, I don't know how to say it, Veru. Oh, it's like Weru. I think that's how you say it. Like you say, it's Veni Vidi Vici. Veni Vidi Vici. And I came, I saw, and I conquered. I believe that's how you're supposed to say it. And Teutoburg, Walt. Crassus had determined to make a name for himself after Pompey had upstaged him in the handling of the rebellion of the slave people of Spartacus. Which they have a show about that. They have a whole show about that. And of course they play things up and whatever, but you can go you can watch a clip or two. I don't really recommend it. I mean, it looks like they really stretch history. I mean, they have a scene with Julius Caesar getting his cheek straight clapped by I think it was Crassus's son. straight clapped his cheeks, and I was like, hey yo bro, what the fuck is this? I saw that on YouTube and I was straight laughing. I was like, yeah. It's ridiculous, but I saw some forums that didn't happen in history. As the Roman governor of Syria, Crassus set out to extend Rome's lands eastward into Parthia. He was not prepared for the Persian cataphracts or heavily armored cavalry in a military style. The Persians were really big into archery. They would shoot backwards, relying on the numerical superiority of the Romans. He assumed he would be able to conquer whatever the Parthians might throw at him. It was only after he lost his son Publius in the battle that he agreed to discuss peace with the Parthians. As he approached the enemy, a melee broke out and Crassus was killed in the fighting. The story goes that his hands and head were cut off, and that the Persians poured molten gold into Crassus's skull to symbolize his great greed. And I believe there was a count. I think his name was oh man, let me see if I could find it. Alright, so I read this before, but this guy's name is Hatui. I don't know how to say it. Alright, and that doesn't really help. Died February 2nd, 1512, was a Taino cacique chief of the Hispaniola province of Guajaba, possibly present-day La Gonave, Haiti. Alright, so this is a Simeonite we're dealing with here. And there was something he said towards his death. Before he was burned, a priest, because he led a rebellion, right? Right, and they captured him. Before he was burned, a priest asked Atui if he would accept Jesus and go to heaven. Lacasus recalled the reaction of the chief. Atui, thinking a little, asked the religious man if Spaniards went to heaven. The religious man answered yes. The chief then said, without further thought, that he would not want to go there, but to hell, so as not to be where they were, where he would not see such cruel people. This is the name and honor that God and our faith have earned. Alright, so he said that, but I don't think that was really what I wanted. There was something else that he said that was really, really important. Let me see. Where was it? Oh, yeah. Right, but that goes into Habakkuk, his heart is not right in him. Very cruel people, but I guess that still makes a point, like Esau back then. Very cruel, which is why they poured molten gold on his neck, because they were, symbolizing his greed, and he's a fucking murderer, He came down there. The only reason he came down there is for his own wealth and for his own selfish desires. There was no reason to go down there. None at all, But, war was in his heart, were they drawing swords? Words his mouth was smooth as honey, but yet they were drawing swords. That's like Psalms, I think, this 22nd chapter. You know, they go forth from the womb speaking lies, things like that. You know, they come forth, try to push out this image that they're, heroes and things like that, but just a fucking murderer. Here is the God the Spaniards worship. For these they fight and kill. For these they persecute us. Actually, hold on, right? Yeah, presumably La Casa later attributed the following speech to a tweet which was addressed against Christianity. He showed the Taino of Calabana a basket of gold and jewels, saying, you can watch my video on him to get more info. Here is the God the Spaniards worship. Right, the same thing that the Parthians did to Crassus. And the same thing he's saying. For these they persecute us, and that is why we have to throw them into the sea. They tell us, these tyrants, that they adore God of peace and equality, that they usurp our land and make us their slaves. They speak to us of an immortal soul and of the eternal rewards and punishments, yet they rob our belongings, seduce our women, violate our daughters, incapable of matching us in valor. These cowards cover themselves with iron, that our weapons cannot break. And that goes into Revelation, the 6th chapter and the 4th verse. Their blessing being the sword. And the only reason they got that blessing, was because, that 1,000-year time period, in Revelation 20th chapter, the earliest parts ended, and then that goes back to, the book of Genesis, like 20, 28, 29, 30, 30-ish. Maybe it's a little bit earlier than that, but, the part where it talks about Esau's blessing, and that he would throw the yoke off his brother's neck. And that happened during the time of the Renaissance, early 13th century. They started to get their shit together. Those independent Christian kingdoms started to consolidate their power. Meanwhile, the Moors started to infight. And in time, they would, start kicking them out piece by piece by piece. And you get that reconquista, And they would take they take us down, take their lands back, yeah. And then you should be thinking of Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. We don't have to get it. Soul's not upright in him. There's death. There is hell. They cannot be satisfied. Because the desire is hell. They cannot be satisfied because hell is the grave, as we all know. Sheol. And you can't fill up, like the grave is filled with bodies every day. Like they say that whole thing with veterans, like what is it, 42 or 72 veterans commit suicide every day, or some figure like that. The ground never complains when all these dead guys go into the earth every day. The ground never says, okay, that's enough, stop it. It just takes the dead bodies, and that's that. All right, so hope you notice that's the same thing. Their desire is this hell. These are just attributes that we, attributes that we can tie to the people known as Edomites, and by tracing these attributes, you can see where they've been throughout history. Which I believe, these Edomites have been around for a fair bit of time in the Roman Empire. It just seems towards like the 100s or so is when they started getting into prominence, because Brutus, if you believe Brutus is an Edomite, that puts them back far, man. That puts them back far, because Brutus, that house was been around for a minute. I think Crassus's house has been around for a minute too, and Pompey's too. I believe those houses been around for some time, man. Like they go back, but they don't go as far back as Brutus. I think Brutus, his house goes back like pretty far back in Rome's history. Like he goes back to like a Roman hero. I think they say he ended the time of I don't really know a lot about Roman history, but they say he was part of the reason why the Roman Republic was founded in the first place. So that was that. So Crassus died trying to get his own glory, and trying to go conquer Parthia, and got mogged into oblivion. Pompey, Pompey had been the son-in-law of Julius Caesar as well as a member of the unofficial power union known as the First Triumvirate. Yet Pompey retained the backing of the Senate. All right, even though Pompey had legitimacy behind him when he faced Caesar at the Battle of Pharsalus, it was a battle of Roman against Roman. Not only that, it was a battle of Caesar's terrifically loyal veterans, right, who fought with him, those battles against Vercingetorix and Gaul, like they say, it's around France, Switzerland kind of area. Though the big battle was the Battle of Alesia. I think they say that one led to that king Vercingetorix. It was all Japhites, man. Getting put down. And basically what Julius Caesar did was that he pretty much boxed them in, and then created another wall outside them to keep their backup out, to keep the other Germanic tribes out. So they pretty much cut them off from their allies and from getting any food. So he just pretty much held the line, was able to beat back the allies, and then Vercingetorix handed himself over. There's a documentary I'm gonna link for you brothers to go check out. We won't watch it this time. If I ever come back to Second Esdras, the 11th chapter, I may show like clips of it. But a little worried about putting that one on YouTube. Maybe if I do something like that, I'll put it on Odyssey or something. And you guys just gotta go out there and watch it. If you want to watch it, go find it. There's only so much I can do. I can say, oh, I made this video, go check it out. But if you don't want to watch it, if no one watched it, it doesn't matter. Caesar's men had no problem mopping up the infantry. Then Pompey fled. He thought it would find support in Egypt, so he stayed at Pelusium, where he had learned Pompey was making war against Caesar's ally, Cleopatra. Pompey expected to support. The green Ptolemy received was less than he expected. Not only did it fail to give him honor, but when the Egyptians had him in their shallow water vessel, safely away from a seaworthy galley, they stabbed him and killed him. Then the second member of the triumvirate lost his head. The Egyptians sent it to Caesar, expecting but not receiving thanks for it. And Caesar eventually helped Cleopatra and all that, which is now to this day, for some fucking goofy reason, the image of black woman rallied towards. And it's like, she's not black, man. She's not so-called black. All right, she's a Edomite. Y'all should not be routing around that and tying that bullshit to fucking black feminism. Dealing with multiple men and being so-called a ambitious woman in playing politics, that's not something to be lorded over. Woman's supposed to be chaste. Think of like Titus, the 2nd chapter. You're supposed to love your family, love your husband. Not be a betrayer and things like that and trying to fuck them over. All right? Which whole situation with Ptolemy and Cleopatra was all the way fucking off. They were fucking brother and sister, man. That's fucking off, man. Hell no. I don't care how good you look. You're my sister. Fuck that. No. That's too close. Caesar, 100 to 44 BC, died on the infamous Ides of March. That's why I said they go back, man. I think maybe 200 BC. It's like a conservative estimate, but you got to understand that the idea of Rome was that Rome was never, we know that the original Romans were Japhites, but they were never really tied to an exact line. They pretty much let anyone come on in and join. Oh my gosh, what's my dog doing, man? This is probably another dog passing. She chilling. Oh, god damn it. Let me go see what this dog barking about. Alright, so I just had to go check on that. The dog just, hurt another dog. So Caesar was really Kaiser. You would say, because of Caesar case. Like, you have someone named, Cincinnatus, it'd be more like Cincinnatus. Cincinnatus would be how you would say it in Latin. Died on the infamous Ides of March, 44 BC, and the scene made immortal by William Shakespeare. Sought to improve on that version. Earlier than Shakespeare, Plutarch added the detail that Caesar was felled at the foot of the pedestal of Pompey, so that Pompey might be seen to preside. Like the Egyptians vis-a-vis Caesar's wishes in Pompey's head, when the Roman conspirators took the fate of Caesar unto their own hands, no one consulted the ghost of Pompey about what they should do with the divine Julius Caesar, because they thought he was. They wanted to worship him and all that. He looked at himself like that. As conspiracy senators had been formed in order to restore the old system of the Roman Republic. They realized Caesar as a dictator had too much power. Senators, you want to become a dictator. Senators were losing their influence. If they could, if they could remove the tyrant, the people, or at least the rich and important people, would regain their rightful influence. Because of Rome, what is he supposed to run with a Senate? The repercussions of the plot were badly considered, but at least there were many illustrious fellow men to share the blame should the conspiracy go south prematurely. Unfortunately, the plot succeeded. When Julius Caesar went to the theater of Pompeii, which is the temporary location of the Roman Senate, on that March 15th day, while his friend Mark Antony was detained outside under some specious ruse, Caesar knew he was defying the omens. Plutarch says Tullius Cimber pulled the toga from the seated Caesar's neck as a signal to strike. Then Casca stabbed him in the neck. By this time, the senators not involved were aghast, but also rooted to the spot. As he watched repeated dagger strikes when he saw Bruce coming at them, he covered his face to be more seemly in death. Caesar's blood pooled around the statue's pedestal. Outside, chaos was about to begin its interregnum in Rome. And that was pretty much it. That's your first triumvirate. But when you're edified, actually, no, hold on. There's actually one thing I need to show you before I close out. You should check out this series, The Roman Empire. Second season. Just check it out. Love when you edify. Shalom.